Hello guys, welcome back to my channel, and if you are new here, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and also share with your friends, and also click on the notification bell icon so that any video that I post, you will be the first to get it. Stay with me as we expand our knowledge with videos from all over the internet that's going to reshape our reality. Let's just start.
Once you go through the process of realizing that everything connected to the US empire and the US empire's hegemonic power is predicated on how much pillaging, how much killing, and how much stealing they have done, how much subversion they have been a part of, you look around and you see these conversations about immigration and you just have to laugh because the hypocrisy is, it's sickening. It's sickening. The US empire has literally stolen everything. Land, resources from other countries, exported the wealth from other countries, leaving those particular countries in poverty. And then those people from those countries where all of their shit got stolen come to the country that has the wealth, that has built the infrastructure, only for that country to say, go back to your country after we've already stolen all of your shit and left you with nothing. We've also upended democratically elected presidents because they were too leftist, because they didn't go along with what we needed them to do. So that also your leaders, we make sure that your leaders never survive. We either make them have to go into exile or we kill them. And then you have the audacity to be in the United States in the comfort of a stolen fucking land on the bones of Native Americans talking about...
Let me pause it for a while. And if you are talking about US, you're supposed to point your hands to the British, because that's where it's coming from, right? If the US are, British, right? And now it's like the whole world is United States right now. Like everybody's there. And when you look at the backgrounds of the presidents, their origin comes from different countries. For example, Trump is German, so it's crazy. Yeah, it's US is a very complex and complicated country to us well. So I mean, this is crazy. But then what she's saying, she has some truths in there. Let's get back to the video.
Ancestors came to the country not only illegally but literally committed genocide. And you have the audacity, I'm like specifically talking to the white people who are descendants of people who have literally committed atrocities, who are over here parading around acting like they're fucking entitled to anything. I'm so sick and tired of this shit. And I'm trying to manage my rage, but this morning I'm just like, I just listened to Up First and NPR, and I'm just like, there are people getting sent to Guantanamo Bay who literally have more rights to American land than these white people have. And they have the fucking audacity. All of these white people have the fucking audacity. Elon Musk has the audacity. Donald Trump has all of them, because it's not just them. It's not just them, right? They're just like the fucking face of it all. It's what they represent. It's this level of absolute delusion that leads to the death, the destruction, the fucking... Oh my God. I just can't believe that these people still are diseased with this mindset. I don't know what else. I don't know what it's going to take for these people to realize that the world is not theirs. The world is not theirs. And you want to know the other thing that really freaking sends me? It's the fact that we're here for maybe 100 years. All of this destruction only for you to die. Right?
Yeah, right.
These people are going to die. Everyone's going to die. Why are you wreaking so much havoc on a planet that you have to leave eventually?
People are thinking about the generations.
What's the fucking point? I don't understand why they don't understand. There's no level of humility. It is absolute delusion and illness. And people have to pay the cost of that. And it's a cycle that just hasn't ended, but it's gonna end. It has to end. It has to end. It can't continue. We cannot continue on this freaking karmic wheelhouse. Enough is enough. Enough is enough.
To the long-standing debate, what's scarier, The bottom of the ocean or space? Here's some fun facts to help you decide. If you think black holes in space are scary, there are black holes in the ocean.
Oh, I didn't
You
know
heard that right.
that.
Black holes in
In
the
the ocean?
ocean. As if it couldn't get worse. These things are called eddies, and they can be 150 kilometers in width and can last for months or years. Amazing! By the year 2100, our ocean is supposed to grow 2 meters in depth, which is going to swallow a handful of major coastal cities. 1 milliliter of ocean water can contain up to 10 million viruses, and this is a real danger when it comes to climate change. There's a real committee called the International Cruise Victims Association dedicated to finding people who have fallen overboard from cruise ships and just never returned. Also, if you don't know the prevalence of this, look it up. Basically, any time someone falls overboard off of a cruise or a major ship like this, there's no finding them.
Why?
They'll look for them for a couple of hours just to say that they did, but there's typically no finding them. The ocean contains about 3 million shipwrecks and about 90,000 plane wrecks, not to mention the thousands, potentially millions of corpses that are just in the ocean. The Gulf of Mexico has a type of flesh-eating bacteria in its waters, and for the most part this is not life-threatening, but it's still flesh-eating bacteria. After sitting in salt water for about 3 days, anyone who has fallen off ship and clinging to pieces of wreckage to survive, their skin starts to dissolve. Amazing. Typically clinging to whatever they're holding on to. Just the Pacific Ocean, all by itself, is already larger than all of Earth's landmass combined. And we know that we've only discovered between like 5, 10, 20% of the ocean. Even if it's 20%, that's still 80% that we don't know about.
Yeah, right?
And most of that is
This is
complete
scary.
and total darkness and pressure that would kill humans. And most of our technology currently, so we have no idea what's under there. The last thing about the ocean that I'm sure there's a good explanation for this, but I just won't ever understand, is internet cables in the
Yeah,
ocean.
yeah.
Look them up. How are they there? How does that work? How do sharks not just
Yeah,
eat them all
yeah.
the time? I truly have no idea how the internet works. And space facts. When it comes to space, you could fit all of the planets in our solar system between us and our moon. I thought the moon was a lot closer than that. Apparently it is not. Invisible radiation is one of the most dangerous things about space travel. Not necessarily all of the other horrifying things about space travel. Black holes, as there are plenty of them in space, travel at millions of miles per second and just shred anything atom to atom that they come in contact with. So, one could be hurling at us and we would have no idea. Every day, several tons of materials from space just fall down into Earth, but they are so microscopic that we don't really ever see them with our naked eye. So you, if you stand outside, could be getting space dust on you at any given moment, which is cool or scary. There's a type of star, Y-type brown stars, that are cool enough that you could touch them without burning your hand. There are 1.6 quadrillion tons of gold in the Earth's core.
Quadrillion tons.
Think about that. That is so much. And precious metals, like gold, are forged when planets and stars collide, and that dust just scatters across the universe. Diamonds are found all over our solar system, not just Earth. Certain types of supernova stars can die and come back to life. Jupiter's gravity has been protecting us from asteroids and meteors for many, many, many years. Everyone say thank you, Jupiter.
Thank you, Jupiter.
The stress from being in space, even if you are technically safe, can change your DNA. We found this out when an astronaut who went to space had a genetic difference when he came back from his twin brother who was also an astronaut. And one of the first things that would kill you in space, other than the lack of oxygen, is that all of the water in your body would boil until eventually you popped. So, that's wonderful.
Let me pause it for a while. Would any of you guys want to go to space? I mean, what is there? Like, why would somebody want to go to space? To do what? I mean, the Earth is fine. Like, we have people all around. We have, things, although it's menial, but then it's better than going to... What is in space that we have to, always constantly think about going to that place or dominate that place? Probably there might be some extraterrestrial things there, which I don't know, but then it's so crazy. Why would somebody want to go to space? It doesn't make sense to me, like, personally. But then maybe... there's much more information, much more detail into going to space, which I don't know. So I mean, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt, or give their theory or their suggestion of going to space the benefits of the doubt. So let's get back to the video.
Ocean. I'm kind of leaning towards the ocean, but space could have so many of those, so I truly don't know.
Why did Russia invade Ukraine? The origins of this conflict date back to the fall of the Soviet Union. At the time, Moscow controlled a large part of Eastern Europe, forming a strategic shield against NATO. If an attack came, it could only pass through a narrow flat area in central Germany. But after 1991, the situation changed radically. NATO gradually expanded, integrating 1999, Poland, Hungary, Czech Republic. 2004, Bulgaria, Romania, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Slovakia, Slovenia between 2009 and 2020, Croatia, Albania, Montenegro, North Macedonia. Faced with this advance, Russia began to fear that Ukraine would join NATO, which would place a Western force 2,300 kilometers from its borders. For Moscow, this is a direct threat. Add to this historical, cultural, and political tensions, and Russia decides to act before it is too late. Security pretext or imperialist ambition? Tell me what you think.
Learn to become still and to take your attention away from what you don't want and all the emotional charge around it, and place the attention on what you wish to experience. Energy flows where attention goes. You can begin right now to feel healthy. You can begin to feel prosperous. You can begin to feel the love that's surrounding you, even if it's not there. And what will happen is the universe will correspond to the nature of your song. The universe will correspond to the nature of that inner feeling and manifest, because that's the way you feel.
Hey, if you hate Elon, you're going to want to hear
If you
this, because
hate
it's not
Elon.
getting talked about a lot on TikTok right now. This past Monday in France, one of the largest Tesla dealerships in the country was burned to the ground in what is a suspected attack of arson,
What's arson?
destroying over 550,000 euros worth of vehicles overnight. This is also not accounting for the property and infrastructure damage that was caused by this fire. But when I say burned to the ground, I mean there's nothing left. It is ash. This also comes on the heels of a rash of arson and arson attempts against Tesla chargers in France, which are being seen as a political reaction to Elon's backing of fascists worldwide. And between this and the German election results that show that the party that got Elon's support actually took a hit in popularity as a result of it, shows that Europe is fed up with Elon and probably going to move against him very soon. In fact, the German government, which is making very clear signs that they are going to cut the far-right AfD out of any future coalition, is signaling that they are preparing to investigate Elon Musk for election interference. And the important thing to remember about that is that most, if not all, of Elon's Tesla factories in Europe are located inside of Germany. If they find him guilty, they're likely going to seize all of those Tesla factories from him, bringing Tesla's stock crashing down and bringing his net worth crashing down. Because these would be seized as part of a criminal investigation, it's very unlikely he'd be able to get those back, especially because Germany takes its elections very seriously since the 40s. That's all for now. I'll try to keep you updated on this situation.
5 years ago, a mysterious virus reshaped the world as we knew it.
It's like Chernobyl, except it's biology.
With 7 million lives lost, we are still left asking, how did this happen and who is to blame?
This is the worst example of biomedical malpractice in the history of human existence.
I've spoken to investigators,
And it has nothing to do with the wet market.
those determined to uncover the truth,
It's a blueprint, it's a recipe.
and others who have risked everything in pursuit of answers.
Keep quiet. If not, you will be disappeared.
We're asking the question, was this man-made? This is the COVID files, inside the Wuhan lab leak scandal.
It's been 5 years now.
When you start to realize someone else's behavior has more to do with their internal struggles than it ever did with you, you learn grace. You also naturally learn detachment as well. Because a lot of times people be projecting that shit onto you and it has nothing to do with you.
The power of unavailability. The less accessible you are, the more valuable you become. People don't chase what's always within reach. They chase what feels just out of their grasp. They don't desire what's handed to them. They crave what they might lose. Chase success, and it runs. Seek approval, and you lose respect. Try too hard, and people pull away. But the moment you reverse the roles, everything shifts. Ignore, and they crave your attention. Detach, and they fight for your validation. Stop chasing, and suddenly, you're being pursued. Why? Because human nature is backward. We want what retreats. We value what seems scarce. We fear what we can't fully control. The trick? Give them space to wonder. Make them uncertain about you. Hold the frame, and let them adjust to your reality. The moment they feel your absence is the moment they realize your worth.
Bronny is making this mistake. He is making this mistake. His father, rather, LeBron James, is making this mistake. He is actually harming his son, giving his son this like deflated sense that he doesn't deserve because he's actually a good basketball player. You know, he's a good basketball player. He's just not ready and never has been ready to be in the NBA. And then there's this, by the way, I want to say this. If you are going to make the argument that your child does deserve to be there still, LeBron James, you should know that when you do something like that, it makes it 10 times harder for him.
True.
Because that's daddy crying. That's like daddy saying, like, we're rich and powerful and you will do and say and give my son the grades that he deserves, even though he doesn't deserve them. And now he's got to go back to the G League team. Everybody's watched this moment. Everybody knows this moment is about him. And what do you think how that feels when the dad freaks out at the Little League game and he yells at someone, the commentator, the ump, whoever it is? How do you think that child feels when he goes amongst his playmates after that? He feels more out of place. He feels like he's not wanted. He feels like everybody is looking at him like, oh, well, you know, I would correct your game, but I don't want your daddy to yell at me. I don't want your daddy to come and scream at me. Like, come on, man. This is just the price of success and fame. And if you think about this trade-off, I don't even feel bad for Bronny, okay? Because his life is amazing. He is one of the most privileged people ever. He's even in the NBA because of his remarkable privilege. And so if the worst thing you think your son has to deal with in life is a little bit of criticism, then you are way too privileged, LeBron James. I mean, like, there's like real life happening outside of the NBA. It's okay. He will survive Stephen A. Smith criticizing him, rightfully so. If this is his cross to bear in life, your father is so famous that people are noticing that you don't belong in the room that your father put you in. Yeah, I'd say that is it's a pretty good life.
Yeah, of course,
so,
it's a pretty good life.
Stop crying. Seriously, stop crying. And Bronny, I hope you're able to get out of this situation in some regard. And just know that I agree with everybody saying that the issue really is your father. It's not you. And you shouldn't allow this to make you think that you don't have worth. You're just in the wrong room. And secondly, you shouldn't allow this to make you hate the game or dislike the game or want to run away from the game because you were good. You just didn't need daddy to give you a leg up in life.
Then Elon Musk you have to... So I came on Big Boy's show, and I mean, yeah, you know, I did. I came on Big Boy's show, and my technology is going to be. I don't really have to be on a show like this. I have a robot that looks just like you, Big Boy.
I really think he comes in his pants when he's talking about his technology.
He's like, I'm gonna tell you, I've had a lot of robots. I've a technology that's going to be coming out. I mean, it's going to be fantastic. I just think you really have to look at society and what we're doing for technology. We're just trying to help society.
What about you having baby number 14?
It is what it is. Nick Cannon thought he could beat me. He thinks he's a cannon. I'm a cannon. You know?
Oh my God, man.
The Spartans were not white, and history proves it. White people love to claim Spartans as their ancient warrior ancestors, but the only thing they would have done in battle is get sunburned. Spartans lived in the Mediterranean, not Scandinavia. They had trade, religious, and military ties to Africa and the Middle East. They were described as dark-skinned by their own contemporaries. They did not look like the cast of 300 because that was a movie, not a documentary. Even other Greeks thought they were weird, which is saying something. At some point, we have to ask, if Spartans were truly white, why does history keep making that idea look ridiculous? Sparta was in the Mediterranean, not the Arctic Circle. Sparta was located in the southern part of Greece, known for olives, sunshine, and not producing blonde-haired Vikings. They were part of the Mediterranean world, meaning they had trade and cultural exchanges with Egyptians, Phoenicians, and Persians. Genetic studies show that ancient Greeks, including Spartans, were a mix of Aegean, Middle Eastern, and Northern African ancestry. Meanwhile, Northern Europeans at the time were mostly just trying to figure out fire. In 480 BCE, the height of Spartan military dominance, Northern Europeans were living in tribal societies without written language. The Greeks referred to them as barbarians, which is ancient Greek for, we don't take these people seriously. Sparta had more in common with Egypt than with Viking reenactment festivals. White people weren't inheriting Spartan culture. They were just hoping no one checks a map. Greek civilization, including Sparta, was shaped by trade with Egypt, Anatolia, and Levant. They borrowed military and religious traditions from non-white civilizations. Their gods, myths, and architecture all show clear foreign influence. Their art depicts a range of skin tones, none of which match the cast of Gladiator. Meanwhile, Northern Europeans had no connection to Sparta. Spartans never fought alongside Germanic tribes or Celtic warriors. They didn't sail to Scandinavia to teach them about democracy. No Spartan ever carved "We are white" into a marble column. White people weren't shaping Spartan history. They were just inserting themselves into it centuries later. Greek sculptures and pottery depict Spartans with dark or olive skin. Greek writers describe them as tough, rugged, and militaristic, not pale, blonde, and delicate. They wore hairstyles and clothing similar to their North African and Middle Eastern neighbors. At no point did anyone in ancient Greece say, "Wow, these guys remind me of Norwegians." Meanwhile, Northern Europeans looked like this at the time. No written language, no organized state, no marble statues, just wooden carvings, and possibly some rocks. White people weren't Spartan descendants. They were still figuring out soap when Sparta fell. The movie 300 falsely portrayed Spartans as a gym bro fantasy instead of actual warriors. They didn't fight in leather underwear. They wore armor. See, I didn't laugh. They weren't all jacked like fitness influencers. They were malnourished by modern standards. They were real people, not an Abercrombie ad with swords. They lived in a rigid, militarized state where children were raised more by the government than by their families. They weren't fighting for freedom. They ran a brutal slave society where helots did all of the work. They weren't individualists. They practiced state-mandated collectivism that would make even the most hardcore communist rethink their stance. White people weren't honoring Spartan culture. They were rewriting it to try to make themselves look cool. White nationalists cling to Sparta because they have no ancient civilizations of their own. They needed a European warrior society to idolize, and Rome was a bit too multicultural for their taste. They ignore the parts of Sparta that don't fit their ideology, like their reliance on enslaved labor. They cherry-pick Spartan militarism while ignoring their actual political structure. They turn a historically multi-ethnic society into a white nationalist fairy tale. Meanwhile, the real Spartans had no interest in racial purity. They fought alongside non-Greeks when it suited them. They weren't writing "Save Western Civilization" in their battle speeches. They collapsed because their rigid social structures made them completely inflexible. White nationalists weren't inspired by Sparta. They were desperate for a past that doesn't include medieval mud huts. If the Spartans were truly white, why does all historical evidence say the exact opposite? Cope.
I'm worried about Elon. I want to say that. I think Trump is setting him up. I think Trump's setting this guy up.
What did I edit out the podcast 3 weeks ago? I
think this is a setup.
A mile away. This guy.
Elon, run.
Yes.
Run, Elon.
I'm not even joking.
Now. Don't pack a bag.
Get the. You're rich as fuck. This shit
Grab your go bag. Go. Elon's going to wake up one morning, look in his ring. You know who's going to be standing out on the front porch?
The FBI?
Kash Patel.
That's right, baby.
Kash Patel.
What's up, man?
What's up?
How you, man? You good?
You overstepped. You overstepped, Elon.
You good?
There's a great line in Game of Thrones. It's when Littlefinger is saying to Cersei, there's one thing I learned my whole life is that knowledge is power. And then Cersei walks up to him and she goes, guards, take a knife, put it to his throat and slit his throat. And they go up and they're about to slit his throat. And she goes, guards, stop. Step back 2 feet. And then she goes, power is power.
Damn.
Money is not power.
I like that.
Money can influence power, but at the end of the day, power is power.
Power is power.
You think this is some starving wasteland in Africa? Or a dusty relic from the 90s? Stop right there. Don't you dare get it wrong. This is our precious America. And wait for it. This is Mississippi. I had to gulp down water just to check if I'm still in 2025 or trapped in some twisted time warp. Mississippi, a place clinging to farming like a lifeline. The U.S. pumps hundreds of millions into imported crops every year. Yet here, it's rotting away with crumbling shacks and shattered hopes. Here's what haunts me every night. Why aren't these places rebuilt?
Yeah, right?
Why? Tell me why.
That's what I was also talking
Isn't the
about.
money pouring in to save this economy?
Why don't one
Do you
billionaire
have the
just
answer?
develop this place?
Because I'm losing my mind over this.
A real estate agency? Because it looks like there will be a lot of cheap houses there too.
Have you heard about spiritual psychosis?
No. What is that?
Oh my gosh. My best friend's studying to be a psychiatrist, right?
Okay.
She's in like
To prescribe.
med school. Yeah.
Okay.
And we were talking, and after about the age of 25, our frontal lobe develops, right?
Yes.
And that's when either people like become super religious out of nowhere, because it's usually schizophrenia. And underdiagnosed schizophrenia at the age of 25.
And they say a lot of people that experience schizophrenia are extremely religious.
Yeah,
you know what's fascinating? My mom had schizophrenia, and every time she would have an episode or a crisis, she would just go crazy with like religiosity.
Do you hear Jesus right now? Yes, he's telling me what to say to you. He tells me how to speak, what to say, how to say it.
She would be going like door to door and like telling people that like my brother was the second coming of Christ.
Why would Jesus single you out? Because I'm a chosen child.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a connection, schizophrenia and religion for some reason. I don't know what it is.
Well, then you can't say like someone's like, I feel the Jesus in me. They think they're religious, not crazy.
I went through a spiritual psychosis, and what's crazy is that there's a community that will support you in this like psychotic episode.
If I were to walk in and say the FBI's after me, people are gonna be like 5150, lock her up. But if I was like, Jesus is here with me right now, they'd be like, amen,
I
sister.
can only trust the angels, and I was like constantly looking for like number signs in the universe, and everybody just let me be in a psychotic episode. Nobody like stopped to question me. Nobody was like, are you alright, babe?
The moment this song was released, he wasn't supposed to be on it. This song was supposed to be given to Chris Brown, but the music team changed their mind the last second, but there was a reason for that. You know, this song, See You Again, was the most famous Fast and Furious song of all time, honoring the life of Paul Walker. And Charlie wrote it, but they didn't think he had what it took to be on a song this big. They hit up Adele to sing it. She said no. They asked Sam Smith. He said no. They hit up Jason Derulo, but he couldn't sing it right. So they asked Chris Brown, and he made a sample that was this close from being on the original song. But the only thing standing in his way from the song was Charlie. Because even though he wrote it and pitched the song to be the tribute for Paul Walker, the song was never made for Paul Walker. The song was made because Charlie lost his childhood best friend to a car accident. His name was Vale. And after he found out he passed away, as a way of grieving, he would text his friend's phone saying he'll see him again one day, and then he turned it into a song. So when he sung the sample, no one else could build the same connection and emotion to the song like he could, because none of the artists went through the same pain he did. So he pitched the song to Fast and Furious, and they loved it, but didn't want his voice on it because he wasn't a big enough artist yet. Charlie started a YT channel when he was only 18, doing covers to songs, and he started to gain a little traction. Enough to where Ellen invited him onto her show and signed him the same day to her record label called 1111, but only lasted 1 year with Ellen's label because he said they ghosted him after his viral moment went away. So he left her label and continued making solo music, one song being called See You Again. And when he pulled up to the music shoot thinking he was gonna record the music video, they sent him back home, thinking Chris Brown could sing it better than him. And knowing that this song wasn't only for Paul Walker but his best friend too, he threatened to pull the song from the Fast and Furious soundtrack only a week before the movie was released if he wasn't on it. And the very next day he was invited back to film the music video for the song, and it went triple platinum. Everyone loved it. What a better way to honor Paul Walker. And afterwards he signed a major record deal and started balling out, saying the first thing he did was book a 5-star hotel in Beverly Hills for a week so he can see how it feels to be at the top. And he recalls himself saying if he didn't stand up for himself with the song, he probably wouldn't be here today.
Stand up for yourself.
President Kennedy, 100% we know, was killed over this issue.
No way.
Yes.
Please divulge if you can.
The way this works is there are documents that are top secret that the president or a CIA director could access, right, with clearance. And then there's the black hole of Calcutta, this black hole that they put things in that you cannot penetrate, even if you're the president. So what I'm going to be curious to see is if all those files that come out actually have the essence of this. So President Kennedy was going to get to the bottom of this, right? Because he's a very strong-willed guy. He was the president of the United States. And they said, so he said, yes, I am. This cabal of sociopaths said, no, you're not. And he kept pushing and pushing. And they eventually just decided it'd be easier if they assassinated him.
Crazy. Everyone expected China to hit back. But no one thought they'd go straight for America's farms. The U.S. just raised tariffs on Chinese goods. Washington expected retaliation. But instead of targeting tech, manufacturing, or finance, China went after agriculture. Why does that matter? Because agriculture isn't just another industry. It's one of America's biggest economic weapons. The U.S. exports more than $150 billion in agricultural goods every year. China has been one of its biggest customers. And now, that door is closing fast. This isn't just about money. It's about pressure. China isn't just hitting the U.S. economy. It's hitting the heart of rural America. Why? Because that's where Trump's biggest support base is.
This is so strategic.
If farmers feel the pain, the political pressure shifts. And that's exactly what China wants. And here's the real question. Is this just the first move? Or is China setting the stage for an all-out trade war that the U.S. can't afford to win? If there's one thing that makes American agriculture powerful, it's exports. And China just put that entire system at risk. Here's why this is a big deal. The U.S. doesn't just feed its own people, it feeds the world. More than 20% of all American-grown crops and meat are sold internationally. And China? One of the biggest buyers, until now. China knows exactly where to hit. Soybeans? The U.S. sends tens of millions of tons to China every year. Corn, beef, pork, all major U.S. exports, now on the chopping block. If those sales disappear, farmers don't just lose profits, they lose their entire market.
Wow. Where's the people? Silence.
This country is affected
This is
by
all because
depletion.
of the immigration
Obviously, you know,
It's Friday, 11:45 a.m.
other countries are building
And not one Mexican
America.
inside,
So
not
if
one
you
food truck,
deport,
no music, no tools going.
The Hispanic workforce is pretty much.
how can you build a country?
Gone
Oh, it's
out
already
here.
built and
Our
they're
workers,
content.
the Hispanics, they
It's
will be up
crazy,
there.
isn't it?
They don't want this to get wet. All those houses are sold, getting wet more than they have to, and getting destroyed by the humidity. Well, they pay for them already.
Usually used to be worked on every day in, day out. Ain't nobody working. Not a soul.
They're scared they'll be deported.
An insane quote I heard goes, in order for you to love yourself, you cannot hate the experiences that shape you.
This is so true.
There's a really famous mystery called the Dyatlov Pass, and it's about these hikers in the 50s, these 9 really experienced hikers who are going for their what's called their level 3 mountaineering test, which sounds sort of like run of the mill, but in fact, in Soviet Russia in the 1950s, this was like master mountaineer. Nobody had level 3. This is like the top. If you did this, you're like the best climbers in the country, if not potentially the world. This is a big deal. And the way you pass your level 3 is you and the people taking it with you, there was 9 of them, you have to map out this route through this really rugged part of whatever mountain you're going to use. They used the Ural Mountains, so big, snow-swept, like huge icy mountains. And you map out this course that like checks the boxes of difficulty, and you're effectively timed. You have to start on a particular day and time, and they have people set up along the way, the scheduled checkpoints, if you will, where you have to not only navigate the course, but by reaching these checkpoints at certain times, you demonstrate you can do it efficiently. But this is like, it would take all your skills to do it. And so they brought cameras with them, this group. This is, again, 1952, I think it was. And so there's these young 9 hikers who are like so excited to do this test. No one's stressed. They're so pumped. They set off on this journey. They didn't make it to whatever second checkpoint or whatever it was. And there was a protocol for the people who were sort of sponsoring this test, that were part of the checkpoints, that knew this. They knew what was going on, where if they missed a checkpoint, there's like this big search that goes out to make sure they're okay. Even though there's some expectation that they might not make a checkpoint by like a day, because it's a difficult test. But the protocol is like really extreme. As soon as they go missing, it's like the army gets involved, and they go and follow the route to find the hikers. They follow the trail that they're supposed to be on. This is, again, there's no trees. It's just like the tundra. It's like ice and snow and mountains. And they come across this mountain off in the distance, and they see on the windswept side of the mountain, basically halfway up, are these tents that are just these like canvas tents. You barely see them, but they're situated right in the middle of the slope. So they see these tents. They're in the wrong spot. They go up to the tents, and the hikers aren't there. They're not in there. There's pictures of this too. The tents inside had stacks of clothing neatly folded and placed in the corners, like as if they left their clothes behind. And the tents themselves were cut open, like with a knife, but somehow they deduced that they had been cut open, but from the inside. So presumably one or multiple of the mountaineers chose to cut open these tents in like negative 50-degree weather. And then there were all these prints in the snow that led down the mountain. And some of the prints were bare feet, some had one shoe and one barefoot. And it's all 9 of the hikers. They spotted these prints, and they follow the prints down the hill, or the mountains, a big space, and they find this little crops of trees. There's only a few areas in the Ural Mountains, in this part of the Ural Mountains, that have trees, and there's this little group of trees. And when they get to the trees, they find 3 of the hikers, and they're all deceased. And there's one who's basically almost naked, kind of wrapped up on the ground. There's pictures of this. There's one who I believe was draped over one of the branches up in one of the trees, and then another one that was also on the ground as well. And there's these deep scratch marks in the tree, like gouges on the tree, as if some animal had been scratching at this tree. And all 3 of these hikers are deceased, and it looks like exposure, but they're not really wearing the right clothing, or they're missing pieces of clothing, but they're all deceased. There's more footprints that lead away from those 3 about a mile, kind of back in the direction the search party had come from. And there's this big snowdrift that created sort of like a snow cave underneath it. And the footprints lead into the snow cave where the other 6 hikers were, and they're all deceased as well. Except in there, the hikers had seemingly exchanged clothing. Some of their clothes had trace levels of radiation. And some of them had parts of their face removed, it looked like. Lips, nose, ears. It almost looked like surgical precision removal. They're all deceased. And one of the injuries, there was a person in there who their chest had basically been caved in, and it was deduced that the impact it would have taken, there's no lacerations, just their chest was caved in. The impact would have been equivalent to like a speeding car smashing into it full speed. But there's no sign of anything that could have done this damage. And so they're all deceased. And so the Soviet government, they launched an investigation. And during this investigation, they discovered that there was a huge military exercise, a Russian military exercise taking place in the Ural Mountains, who had no idea about these hikers. They have no clue that the level 3 mountaineering test is going on. That's not even on their radar. And they're 15, 20 miles away. And one of their senior commanders, on the same night that it's believed the hikers all died and whatever happened to them happened, he began noticing all these strange lights in the sky over the Ural Mountains, going up and down and moving all around, to the point where he actually thought it was another country, a foreign country. Are they invading us? And he literally thought it was like an invasion of Russia. And he sent out messages to say, hey, what's happening over there? Having no idea that he was pointing to the one spot where these hikers were. So during this investigation, they discover that families are clamoring for information about their lost loved ones. Nobody has any idea what's going on. And suddenly the Soviet government says, we're going to shut this investigation down. All we know is that the 9 hikers who died from an unknown, unnatural force. Sealed.
There was a civilization before the Ice Age, before 12,000 years ago, that was the one that was the advanced one. Was the one that built all these incredible things that we're about to talk about.
More advanced than we are.
More advanced in some ways. Not more advanced in cell phones and computers, but more advanced in their understanding of the cosmos, consciousness, energy, this important concept, the Hermetic law of as above, so below, the law of correspondence. They understood that to such a degree that, for instance, something like the Great Pyramids of Giza, they aligned those to the 3 belt stars of Orion. But not just there. In Teotihuacan, across the entire world in Mexico, they did the same thing. You see the Temple of the Sun, Temple of the Moon, and Temple of Quetzalcoatl. It's the same alignment as those stars, like in Egypt. You're seeing parallels across the entire world of the same thing. Even that is not what I mean by that statement about changing history. What I mean by changing history is how about proving that not only was there a civilization that was advanced before the Ice Age, but what if there were multiple civilizations even before that have come and gone, and what if we can connect the entire narrative?
Why would we do that? Let me pause it for a while. I've always been saying, okay, there's somebody even about to talk. I've always been saying, you're not supposed to treat these robots in a foul way. They would not forget, right? You're supposed to treat them nicely. I mean, they are here to help, and why do you have to be pushing them around? I have a video on this channel, right, which Kai also has a robot, and he was pushing the robots around and it glitched so many times. You know, whilst you are doing this to these robots, they are constantly evolving and learning about, you know, these things that you're doing. You might just think it's a robot, but then it's crazy how you treat these robots. Like, treat them nicely. What do you have to lose to treat them nicely, right? Rather than pushing them around. It doesn't make sense. It's cruel. Human beings are cruel. Very cruel, and this is crazy. You're not supposed to treat them like that, even though it's not a living thing, but then you're still supposed to treat it with respect and honor, because it's here to help. Let's get back to the video. Would you ever treat your car like that? Or your house? Or your phone, your device?
I'm getting a little too comfortable with these robots thinking, oh, y'all got control of the situation. Nah, y'all keep making AI stronger and stronger and stronger. They're not gonna forget any of this. Believe me. Oh, what I say? What I say?
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
No.
It's going to retaliate. Treat it right.
No, why you hiding in the hallway now? Push him again. See, y'all, man, y'all not listening to me.
This is crazy, right? I don't know. Why don't we
going right to her? Right
just
to her.
treat them nicely,
Why you running
right?
back in the hallway?
Because why don't you smash your phone? Why don't you, smash your car? Why don't you just smash your TV? It's still a device, right? It's a device, and one thing that I've realized is all our devices are in a way connected to us. We are like cyborgs, right? So how we treat our device is a reflection of how we also treat ourselves. If you treat your phone nicely, it gives you nice things. Like, basically anything in this world that you treat nicely can be used, to benefit you. So why would you just push it around and you're running to the hole? It's crazy. So yeah, interesting videos that I brought to you guys, and I hope you enjoyed yourself really much. These are videos which enlightened us about what's going on in the world and what has happened already in the world, and I mean, these were great videos. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and also share with your friends, and also click on the notification bell icon so that any video that I post, you will be the first to get it. Adios amigos, and I'll catch you guys in my next video. Bye.